Hey guys, today we talk about a special ed league for baseball, a class that I have taken. We play a fun game of Would You Rather, and we talk about a viewer's question. If you guys like this podcast, please make sure to leave us a like and give us a follow. We really appreciate it. Anyway, on to the podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Thinking is Infinite podcast with Joe
and John.
And today we are going to be
We are on episode what, Joe?
Number 4.
That's it, number 4. Episode number 4. And thank you so much for everyone who's listened to it and has been following us. Mm-hmm. We've gotten some great feedback, and so much so that, Joe, we're not only going to answer a question today from one of our listeners, and I have a guest lined up for a future episode.
Yep.
Do you remember, Joe, when you used to play baseball in...
Yeah.
Do you remember what the league was called?
I think it was the Yes League?
Yep, exactly, the Yes League. Well, the founder of the Yes League has agreed to come on a future podcast.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I'm revealing this just right now to Joe. This is live. We had not prepared this. And Joe,
No, actually, we hadn't.
Yep, and I had spoken to her on LinkedIn. And she said she'd be happy to join us for one of the podcasts. She couldn't today because she had a golf outing or something.
Oh, got it.
So, but she's going to call in on a future episode, and we'll talk about this amazing league called the League of Yes, where,
Yes
Joe,
League.
why don't you describe what it was like for you?
Okay, I remember that, the Yes League, has both Nassau and Suffolk, kind of branches. Now, I used to, before I played at the Nassau one, I played at the Suffolk one first, so we had to go, probably a pretty long drive there. I remember that, it was actually really, fun. We got to, run around, the bases all the time. I would always go very quickly. Kind of had a bit of troubles, swinging the ball, having, the bat and, swinging, but I improved on that over time. And I also remember that the second year, something like that, was at Eisenhower, which is a park much closer to us, so that was a good thing. They kind of have, I guess they have, 2, different branches, or,
The Nassau and the Suffolk League, yeah. It's an amazing place for anyone with any special needs can come and play, and one of the reasons why they call it League of Yes is because anything the kids want to do, yes. They want to hit a home run, yes. And it's amazing. What they have is their buddies come, typically from colleges or high schools, that come down and help out some of the kids with special needs and help them hit the ball. And home runs are amazing, and everyone just has a great time.
Yeah, it is a really good league to kind of send a special needs kids if you're in if you're on Long Island.
So if you want your child to have an experience, a sport experience, and maybe they haven't been able to play a sport in the past because of maybe the physical part of their development hasn't gotten to that point yet. Look it up. Try it. See if you can find a League of Yes in your area. I know they're in New York. Again, we're going to have the founder hopefully next week's podcast, Joe.
Okay.
And she'll tell us a little bit more about if they're branching out, where they are. But I actually saw one of the videos go viral, and it was pretty impressive.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Sounds good. That sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, and to go back a little bit, I mean, Joe, in every episode we've had so far, Joe has talked about himself very briefly, and Joe is on the spectrum, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and we've talked in more detail about some of Joe's struggles and what he's done to conquer them in previous episodes. So we encourage anyone who's new to the podcast right now to go back to one of the previous episodes and give a listen to what Joe has experienced so far. And every episode we're going to talk a little bit about special needs, and then we just talk about some other things, right, Joe?
Yep, that's exactly what we're going to be doing.
And one of the things we were trying to do to branch out the show a little bit is to get questions from people that maybe have a special needs child or wanted to contribute to the show. One of the questions that I got online was this, Joe, and I wanted to ask you the question.
Okay.
It says, my son is 10, and while his 2 other brothers are very active, he tends to stay inside behind a computer in his room which scares me as I fear he has too much time in his own mind to worry. How can I get him to join in with us? I've signed him up for kickboxing to try to curb his frustration. Do you think that will help?
I feel like a big, here's the thing about, people on the spectrum. They kind of like to be alone a lot of the time, and it is kind of hard to get, those kind of, like, people to get out of their, like, comfort zones and do something. I actually do that. I actually struggle with that quite a bit. Like, even things that I like, I'll turn it down just because, like, I want to be alone. Like, it is pretty hard, but I feel like a good idea to start is to try to, have something that he likes, do something that can get him out, that sounds fun to him, and hopefully can kind of get him out of the house, and can hopefully transition him to more, like, outdoor activities, like exercising, those kind of things. Well, even, like, going, like, the movies is a good idea, just getting, like, some time outside the house is always good.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Healthy. And I know one of the things with you, Joe, is that I remember starting slow, so making it an hour, and then making it an hour and a half, and then making it 2 hours, and then keep extending the amount of time that you're out of the house
until you're comfortable with something longer. And that is also a good method. Like, try doing it gradually. Gradually always helps with a bunch of different things, but especially things like that, because you want to, like, kind of slowly get them out and get them out of that comfort zone gradually rather than just rushing it. Because if you rush it, it's probably not going to end well.
Yeah, and I think that maybe what the listener can do is kind of, which wasn't touched on in the question, what is your son interested in online? What is he looking at on the computer? And maybe you can tie that into the activity that you're going to be doing outside, right?
That's a good idea. I mean, if they're like looking up something that interests them, it's likely that tying it into something that, interests them is always a good idea. So yeah, that's actually something that can really help with that.
And and start slow, right, Joe? Start slow, take your time, try to get a little success,
and then keep going from there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Joe.
Okay,
so how's everything going Joe? How's school been?
It's actually been going pretty well. First week of school, I kind of got a bit drowsy, kind of like kind of conked out a bit, but I've been kind of improving from there.
That's interesting you say that, Joe, because I've also seen on a lot of the autism boards that I read, there's a lot of kids have some difficulty sleeping. How have you managed your sleeping through the years, and you feel like you're getting enough nowadays?
Well, first of all, you have to kind of find a time. You have to find a time where you are going to go to sleep, and you have to kind of keep pressuring yourself to go and do that, first of all. And second, I've managed to sometimes, like, if you're really having trouble sleeping, take some, like, melatonin or something that can kind of help you fall asleep quicker and also longer, so that when you wake up, you'll be well rested by the time you kind of you have to go. You're well rested.
So you're sticking to a stricter bedtime now, huh?
Yeah, like, kind of like saying, okay, well, on, like, school days, this is the time I'm gonna go to sleep. Weekends, I've kind of gone to sleep later, of course, but, like, on school days, I go to sleep, like, strictly at 9:30, so...
Good. See, that's, and one of those things that we're gonna constantly talk about is Joe's things that he's gonna be overcoming, and we thought that would be a good thing to talk about today. Right?
Yeah, it's a good place to start with that.
All right, so... thank you for joining us for this first segment, and on to the second segment.
Hey guys, and welcome to our next segment where we are going to be playing a Would You Rather game.
Yep, the Would You Rather game is basically, I'm going to ring off two choices to Joseph, and Joe's going to try to pick and see what is the one that people hate the most, would rather not happen to them the most. So okay. I have a cards in my hand, and I'm going to read them off to Joe.
Yep.
And Joe is going to see, and you're going to decide what you think. People that have been asked this question, what do they think is worse?
Okay.
Out of the two, okay?
Okay.
All right. First one, Joe. You ready?
Okay, got it.
All right. The roller coaster stalls. You dangle upside down for 2 hours. Okay, think about that for a moment. And the second one, very short, bitten by a bat. So what would you rather... What do you think the people would hate the most out of these two?
Let's
really talk about the roller coaster first.
Okay, for the roller coaster, I
you
feel
like roller coasters, right?
Yeah, but I feel like being stuck there for 2 hours isn't exactly fun. But I feel like people probably hate being bitten by a bat more.
So now, when you're upside down on a roller coaster, right? Now, you have that shoulder harness probably, but you're upside down. 2 hours.
But I feel like being bitten by a bat is probably worse.
A bat would freak me out. I mean, even seeing a bat would freak me out, much less getting bitten by one.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Now, the answer, Joe, is people would fear getting on a roller coaster, dangling upside down, more than being bit by a bat. So what they call the misery index is 63 for the roller coaster, and 57.
Apparently people aren't afraid of bats, or not as afraid of bats.
I think it equally stinks, but I guess a little bit less. All right, you ready for the second one, Joe?
Yeah.
All right, so you're 0 for 1. We have 2 more. Okay, so let's see if you can beat 2 and 1 rather than 1 or 2 or 0 and 3.
Okay.
All right, now, trapped in an elevator overnight with Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" playing continuous loop.
Okay.
Okay. Or your phone falling in the toilet.
They're a hard one, but I'd probably have to say being trapped in an elevator overnight.
Okay, so trapped in an elevator with "All I Want for Christmas Is You" playing over and over again is worse than the phone falling in the toilet.
Probably.
I guess, let's see. You're stuck in an elevator. The same song keeps playing over and over again, so it's got to be difficult to sleep, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're also trapped in a small elevator, and you're probably going nuts. You know the song "All I Want for Christmas," right, Joe?
Yeah, I know.
All right, so you hear it every year. We hear it a lot.
Yeah.
And we always know when Christmas season comes about because that song keeps playing over and over and over again. Or the phone falling in the toilet, because now your computer, your own personal computer has fallen in the toilet.
Yeah. That's
what do you think is worse?
I feel like the elevator's worse.
Elevator's worse. Joe, I'm going to show you the answers here. The phone in the toilet actually scored higher.
Oh my god. People would rather be stuck in an elevator overnight
than their phone falling in the toilet.
I overestimated how much people were obsessed with their phones.
Exactly. You totally underestimated that, right, Joe?
Underestimated, yeah.
All right, last one, Joe.
Okay.
You ready? Come on, we got to salvage this. We got to get one right, okay? All right. 1.
Okay.
A bird pooping on your head.
Okay.
Okay. Or 2, step on a Lego with your bare feet.
Ooh, yeah. Probably... I'd probably think people would rather get, I'd probably think bird pooping on their head would probably be worse.
You ready for the answer, Joe?
Yep, I'm ready.
You think you got this one right?
I don't know.
Because right now, out of the 3, so far you had 2 wrong, but close. These are close ones. This is a tough thing.
Okay,
You're trying to think how the world would think, okay? Mm-hmm. Bird pooping on your head is worse than stepping on a Lego. You got it right.
Finally got one.
And that was our segment of... What? Would you rather have worse happen to you? Bad things happening to you?
Would you rather? The bad version.
Bad version.
Anyway, on to our next segment.
Hi, welcome to our next segment that we have here. And Joe would like to talk about a course you're taking in school, right? And I thought it was a really... When he touched base with me about it, I said, wow, this is a really interesting subject. I'd like to learn a little bit more about it. So, Joe, and I noticed because... with Joe's grades, it pops up on my phone. This is one of those cool things that you have these days as a parent. It's called Infinite Campus, and I get your grades immediately after you get
the
graded.
Campus portal. Well, there are other online portals too, but Campus is the one that we use.
Well, I love seeing it, and I saw you got a really good grade. I think you scored perfect on this course. So why don't you tell the audience about this course, and then we'll talk about it a little more.
So this course that I'm going to be talking about today is actually called AP Seminar. Now, AP Seminar is actually part of the AP Capstone program. I'm actually taking 2 AP courses, AP Seminar and AP World this year. AP Seminar actually talks about, like, things like analyzing arguments, doing research, finding things to support those arguments, finding, analyzing evidence, kind of finding data, those kind of skills that people need to learn in order to be successful,
Well, the thing that struck me as very interesting, Joe, is the portion of it was you were talking about how to resolve, have your opinion and listen to other people's opinions. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that part of it.
Okay, so we actually covered this. They actually had 2 different mindsets for an argument. Or debate. There was the warrior mindset, the one who wants to be right and wants to fight other people based on their opinions and perspectives, and then the scout mindset who wants to look around and kind of think about other perspectives and learn about them to not only strengthen their own perspective but understand why people might think differently.
See, the thing I thought about this, and this is why it struck me as so interesting, is that our society is now all in what would you call warrior?
Warrior.
It is almost, it feels like, now maybe it's not, but it feels like it's 95% warrior. Everyone has taken their side and everyone is just ready to argue. No one's willing to listen to the other person's opinion.
Not really,
and
no.
The first thing I thought of was when Joe said this, I said, thank God something's getting taught correctly in the schools where they're teaching kids to try to listen and hear out an opinion and have your own opinion, that's fine. But go in with an open mind and not be so argumentative. Right now, this country is in such a massive divide. I've never seen it so divided right now. Almost to the point where it's like, is this going to be a peaceful or a not so peaceful divorce of the way people think? It's from COVID, it's from politics, it's everything. It seems like everyone has a fight these days. Joe, what were they teaching you to maybe not fight so much?
Well, first of all, they were teaching about how it's very important to kind of listen not only to both sides of an argument, but also research heavily into it and kind of determine the reliability of the sources that you're using. We actually learned this right after I talked with Dad about this. We learned about a technique that they called the Raven, where they basically said, okay, well, first of all, the reliability of the author and the source. So, is the author and the publication known for reliable things? Can they be trusted? Then, their ability to observe. Could they have observed, or could they have saw this particular situation? The vested interest. What interest could that person or publication have? Does that publication or author have a specific interest in mind that they might want you to go toward? And then I can't remember what the E was, but I do remember the N was for neutrality. Is this author biased? Couldn't quite remember.
Well, you know what, Joe? I think here's the issue right now, and especially since COVID started. What I noticed right now is every single news source is biased in some way, shape, or form, and it's become such a frustrator for me trying to find information that is useful that I have to constantly. What I basically do these days, Joe, I go on what I know is a right-wing news site. I know is a left-wing news site, and you know what I'm finding out? 2 different worlds are out there. No wonder everyone hates each other. If you go on a right-wing website and read the articles there, or news articles, or then you go onto a left-leaning site, read the news articles there, no wonder everyone hates each other. So I think it's so important to take a moment out of each day and check both sides and I mean, if you can find a neutral source, that's the best. I still haven't found a neutral source out there. I know when I'm going to a certain site what I'm getting. I'm getting left-leaning news or right-leaning news.
Well, there are a few, like, PBS is kind of neutral, like, it's more neutral than many of the others out there. That's what my teacher said, like, PBS is kind of neutral, as well as, like, that there might be other, like, sources, like, maybe, like, The Hill or something, but, yeah, there aren't that many, like, neutral sources to pick from. Most of the news is either left-wing or right, or increasingly going toward that direction, even if they're neutral. Like, now they might be leaning toward one side or the other, or maybe they're just,
And I think if you can have if they taught you guys, and I hope that you can continue to use this skill to listen to other people's opinions and share an opinion without insulting. I think that's where people get lost.
Yeah.
As soon as someone feels like they're backed in a corner, as soon as they feel like they may be
wrong,
losing an argument, it automatically turns into an insult. Whereas I try, when I engage online, I'm not perfect, but I try not to engage too much when it comes to, issues that are contested, let's call it, okay?
Yeah.
But every once in a while I will. I'll challenge someone and ask them a question, but I don't go there to try to yell, scream, fight, argue. I just go there and I'm almost like, change my mind. Tell me I'm wrong, because this is what I've been seeing out there. And one of the things I had recently had, and it was so funny, it was a post that someone was going back and forth about the vaccines. Yeah. And I had mentioned, someone had mentioned something like the natural immunity doesn't last. Yeah. And I actually sent the guy an article showing that in a study in Israel, natural immunity did last a long time. And it actually did better in the last surge that Israel had than people that had the vaccination. He pulled an article from another source that had the complete opposite. So it was funny because him and I both went, okay, you got your source, I got my source. I don't know what the answer is either. And we both kind of like laughed it off and said, we don't even know, because you got one side, I got another. And I was like, listen, from what I read, natural immunity actually does work. When someone has had COVID, it actually is working better than the shot is. And he showed me something completely opposite. So we don't even know.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. Many of these sources have a bias, not only because the author thinks a certain way, but also because the publication wants to convince you to think a certain way. Yeah. They have their own type of interest, like with the vested interest. Many of these, like, especially the mainstream outlets, have their own interest that they want to fulfill. They either want to sell ad space, or they want to convince you to join a specific side. So they're going to show that side very heavily, and either not focus on the other side, or if they do, they insult the other side or degrade them.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's one journalist I follow, and the reason why I follow him is because I find him excellent. He worked for a news company, and his company gave him an assignment, and they told him, okay, we want you to do this story. Okay. He finds the facts. I'm giving you the basics of it. He finds the facts that didn't fit what the news company told him to write. And he says, listen, I found out this. And know what his boss said?
Not to publish it?
We don't want that on the air, because that is not what our audience wants. So you know what he did?
What?
He goes, listen, I was under contract. I let my contract expire. I got paid. I didn't quit right there. And I told them, once my contract is done, I'm going to move on my own. And he runs his own newscast right now. Yeah. And he's fantastic. And you know what? I trust him more than I trust anyone else, because he was someone that was left-leaning, and he's not right-wing at all. He's very, very much in the middle. There's things I listen to and I go, oh, I totally disagree with him. And there's certain things I listen to and I go, I totally agree with him. But you know what I do like about him? I know I'm getting the truth. And he says he's starting his news website, and he's going to be hiring not only fact checkers but framing checkers. Do you know what framing is, Joe?
Yeah, framing is like when you take multiple like sources and like kind of pit them against each other, I think.
It's actually a part of framing, and if I'm getting the definition wrong, I know I'm pretty close. It's creating a story to set up your agenda.
Oh.
So it's actually think about it, like, taking a picture frame, and saying, I'm going to make this look the way I want it to look. So not only does the media and all sides do it, left and right, they frame the story to the narrative that they want. So if they want to make someone look bad, they're going to create a story to make someone look bad. No
matter if that story is mostly true or mostly false, doesn't really matter to them. They just want to kind of, frame a different way. Should have known that part.
but I'm really hoping that more kids and more adults actually learn this. What you've learned, Joe, is to actually, read source, come up with facts, right? Come up with if you're going to have an argument, if you're going to have an opinion, try to have some facts behind it, because it'll make you, at least if you want to try to convince someone of an opinion. If you have facts and data behind it that you can source and say, look, this is why I'm saying this. I'm saying this for this reason. It can go a heck of a lot further. And don't insult, right? There's no...
Yeah, it's just as important for people to respectfully state their opinions as it is for others to listen to those opinions and give kind of like respect others' opinions. So it's kind of both kind of equal each other out in importance to not only like, any discussion that you're having, but also to the future of society as a whole.
Oh my God, Joe, if we can't get to the point where we at least understand each other's side, then we could be lost as a society. And that's the thing that kind of scares me these days, is I really think we're almost at the point where no one's listening to the other side anymore. Everyone's just yelling at each other. And it's gotten so bad. It's gotten terrible. And I feel like it's getting worse. And with every day, I feel like it's getting a little bit worse. And I really hope it changes.
Yeah, the media also encourages that, too.
Absolutely.
The mainstream does. The social media platforms certainly encourage it, especially things like Facebook and Twitter. Though every social media does at some point, but those two kind of, steal the spotlight. But, like... many of these companies kind of want people to do it because it makes them more money.
Well, that's the thing,
have more
and
ads.
I noticed a lot of the media, and it's both sides. They if you turn it on in the morning, they're creating an argument. They're like, "Oh, look at this! This is terrible!" And then and they did it for the last 4 years. They're doing it now, and it depends on what side you're listening to. It's like, what can I get angry about? And I noticed, and I haven't really watched too much news in the morning, but I got to start to watch the news in the morning, and I realized it was just making me mad. It was making me upset. And I was like, I don't want to be upset anymore. So I'm trying to, get out of the fact of even turning on the news in the morning and reading and trying to read independent, as best I can, sources and find out what the heck is going on in this world.
Yeah, I feel like also, kind of getting people angry is also a good way to sell more stuff. If people are mad at something, anger releases chemicals into your brain. So, it kind of gets you, it's a very strong emotion, even stronger than, like, love. So, oftentimes, when you're angry at something, you're more likely to click on it and, kind of read through it more. And that anger makes you want to listen further, and, once again, either listen for the commercials or scroll down to read the ads. And once you do that, they got their bucks.
Yeah, sensationalize it. What they do is they want to create anger. Anger will lead to clicks. Anger will lead to staying on and watching a complete show, because they're tapping into the anger of what you may feel. And I feel like both sides are so guilty of it. I mean... I honestly think 90% of the news is left-leaning and about 10% is right-leaning, maybe even more than 90%. But they're both doing it. They're equally guilty in framing, equally guilty in propaganda, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's all, pretty much all kind of framing, X side is bad,
And right now, we don't have the luxury of propaganda. things like COVID it's way too dangerous to have propaganda. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going to make my family and myself feel okay, and stop with the politics with it, and let's do the best we can. We may not be able to get rid of it. I know almost every episode we've at least touched base on COVID a little bit, but you know what? It's the topic of our time. I mean, it's
pretty much. And that's like, people have to kind of like, I feel like that needs to be improved. Things need to change with the whole idea of news.
Well, what do you think, Joe? I remember one time we were having a conversation about, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. It was probably around the election. I think you and I were talking about. And remember we were talking about, like, you were saying, I would love to start a neutral website on news, right?
Yeah, I actually did kind of talk about that a bit, even like thinking about it. Although, I feel like I wouldn't be able to do it alone, coming up with all this, just commentating all this news every single day. Basically, a new news story comes out every minute. So, You can't really do that by yourself, but I feel like, I would want to start one, or kind of have one that's very in the middle and kind of just gives the facts.
You know what I would love, Joe? I would love a story to be this way. Okay. This has happened. Let's just say inflation, right? Okay. Inflation's going up, prices are going up, right?
Yeah.
So instead of propaganda, be like, okay, the price of milk went up 30 cents. Mm-hmm. Here's what this side says the reason is, and here's what this side says the reason is, and let people decide on their own. And say, okay, the left says it's for this reason, the right says it's for this reason, or like vaccinations. Okay, so this side says you should all get vaccinated, and this side says that there could be herd immunity, or someone who's already had the shot, or, and then let people decide. Instead of, it always seems to be 90% one side, depending on the media, and then the other side says this. But the whole article is drawn to one direction, and then nothing, barely anything for the other direction.
If there's anything at all.
If there's anything at all.
Okay, and I feel like that kind of concludes our our podcast, except for one little IRL segment coming up. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey guys, and welcome to our last segment, our bonus or IRL segment.
Yeah, this is our segment where we kind of just shoot the breeze a little bit, and we're doing it from the Jeep Cherokee Studios.
Yep, that's where we're doing it from.
Jeep. And, one of the things we like to say is, again, we'd like to say thank you for listening, and thank you, and hopefully you're sharing this podcast if you're enjoying it, and hopefully we're helping you get through a busy workday maybe, or whatever you're doing, exercising, taking your morning walk, and just enjoying the podcast.
Yeah, we really hope that you all enjoy this. And
one of the things we were just talking about, right, Joe, is some of the scary things that were happening. It seems like there's supply issues going on in the news right
chains,
now.
Yeah.
And we're finding that things that we normally would buy are not there anymore, not on the shelves right now. And gosh, I hope this doesn't become something that can impact the Christmas season. I mean,
they already said it'll impact Christmas season. That's already a thing. The question is, will it impact further than that? Not if it will impact Christmas season.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope it doesn't. I mean, it's a little bit, it's so scary. It seems like so many weird things have been happening lately. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe we're living in this life right now, right?
Yeah. Joe? Yeah. Yeah, me neither.
That's a real life burp, right, Joe?
Yeah, that was
our first burp on our podcast, Joe. Congratulations! Woo-hoo. You were holding that one back. I think I heard about three of them that you were holding back. Finally let loose.
No, actually, that just came out. I had Taco Bell before that.
Yeah, and you know what? Our listeners go, man, all this kid does is eat fast food. All he talks about is fast food. Yeah, well, we. At least it didn't come out the other end, right, Joe?
That's true. Taco Bell farts are not fun.
No. I don't even know if farts should be talked about on podcasts.
I mean, we're doing an IRL segment, so you gotta make it fun.
Well, it is real life, right?
Yep.
It happens, right? It's a natural thing.
Yep. Just nature running its course. Anyway, so we want to answer a question or something?
No. I mean, one of the things we like to do is if you have any other questions, or you feel that you have someone that can enhance the show, especially from the special needs standpoint, if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, contact us, reach out to one of us. We're in a small community right now, and before this grows so big, I would hope it grows, but I hope to have guests and have people on the show, on our podcast, and be able to discuss certain topics that are
we might not be able to discuss as thoroughly, and we can kind of discuss, or we could discuss together.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to future segments, and if you have questions that you want us to ask, want Joe to answer, because that's one of the things that we would like to do. Is Joe's perspective is so unique in the autism community, because a lot of kids can't communicate as well as Joseph can, and Joseph can articulate his feelings better than most kids that I know.
Yeah.
And we want to have questions answered as best as possible in the future, right, Joe? And
definitely.
So, Joe, if you have a teacher in mind,
and
if you have someone who has impacted you in a positive way, I think that's a good way to look at it, and keep sharing it, right, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. Just, it keeps going,
What's been the most fun thing about this podcast, Joe? To you?
Kind of just, kind of like giving my own perspective on things, like kind of having an audience to share it with, really. That's been the most fun thing so far.
I've been enjoying it too, Joe, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. And Joe does, if you don't know already, Joe does all the editing, right? You do the uploading.
Yeah, I do that.
You do. And
do a lot of this stuff.
And you track the listening, the downloads.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
And I usually run the comment portion of it, right, Joe?
Yeah, because I actually don't have one yet, but...
You don't have the Apple. You don't have the Apple. You have a Samsung phone,
I have a Samsung phone, so I don't have, Apple Podcasts on my phone, but...
We wanted to thank you once again for giving us a listen, and share it if you're enjoying it. And we hope you follow the podcast, so every time we do upload a new podcast, it goes automatically onto your phone, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's a good idea, because we're going to be kind of uploading at a different time each week, kind of depending on when we can record.
Well, and it goes by your school schedule, too, Joe.
Too.
School's the most important thing. We want you to make sure that you're doing everything you can to have the best grades as possible.
Yeah, that's why the day that the podcast will come out on will kind of vary week to week. So it's a good idea to make sure that you actually do follow the podcast, so you can kind of get update on everything.
Absolutely.
Like this episode or any of the other ones.
And if you have any other suggestions of how to make the show different, and we've had some suggestions about putting music at the beginning and the end, of course.
Which I've actually wanted to do for quite a while, but you have to get a subscription service. I think we're probably going to set that up next week. I do want to set that up because, again, for our special guest, we want to we could set up the royalty-free music and pay for that.
Yeah, we'd love to grow it. We'd love to grow the podcast, and the more listeners you get, the easier it is for us to grow the podcast.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. So,
thank you so much for joining us in this episode.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
And we'll see you at episode 5.
See you later. And that's the end of our podcast. Just make sure to follow our podcast on whatever platform that you have for weekly updates, because we are not going to be posting at the same day every week. So just make sure to give us a follow so you can be notified of the most recent updates to our podcast. Okay, see you next week.